About 4 years ago, when I stepped onto a sim racing scene and bought my very first wheel, I always wanted to upgrade my setup with buying a sim racing control box. And if you're not familiar with control boxes, it's a pretty simple thing. It's a box with a bunch of different buttons, switches, joysticks and rotary knobs that you can bind to almost any in-game action you like. But I could never justify spending the same amount of money or even more for the controller box that I spent for my wheel. But now let me introduce you to a PXN CB1 Control Box that changes all of that. A gaming control box that won't make you go broke. But is it any good and is it worth buying? Let's go find out. Before getting the CB1, I checked online pictures and I was immediately sold by its looks. And when I got my hands on it, I could only confirm that it's indeed one of the best looking control boxes out there. Thanks to an industrial grade ABS panel from which the box is made, it feels quite premium and not like a cheap low grade plastic. It also has fine texture engravings that makes it look even more visually appealing. It features 30 programmable buttons, from self-resetting buttons, self-locking buttons that are kept pressed, so it comes in handy when binding windshield wipers, so you don't need to press the button every single time. Then you have some cool looking switches that felt like you're driving a plane or a proper race car. You also have joysticks, so you don't need your controller anymore, some rotary knobs, and last but not least, the button that I was the most hyped about, an ignition switch with a start engine button. Now I can finally practice turning on a race car so that I will be prepared on the moment when I build one in a real life. So far the CB1 control box seems amazing, but how does it work inside games? After a quick and easy 5-minute setup, the CB1 was ready to use. It's basically a plug and play. You attach the box to your table or sim rig if you have one and connect it with a USB cable to your PC, and that's it. Just a quick note, for the purpose of this video I placed and fixed the CB1 on top of my desk with some unconventional methods so that you can see it a bit better, as if I would attach it to my desk with a clamp it wouldn't be seen so good, but it would be more stable than it is now. I first tested CB1 control box inside Assetto Corsa, where you have so many in-game actions that it wasn't a problem binding all of the buttons. The very first button I had to try was an ignition switch that worked like a charm. Of course, the functionality of this button will be different from game to game and how you set them up, but in Assetto Corsa it works super good and it actually gives you a feeling like you're turning on a proper drift car. And when I connected the CB1, I completely forgot that it also has an RGB lights that makes your setup stand out from others. You are able to choose between 7 colored lights. You just need to hold down the handle button and turn the ABS rotary knob with which you scroll through different RGB colors. And with traction control button you can adjust the brightness of the RGB effects. I also binded some other normal buttons to control my lights, teleport back to pits, restarting sessions and so on. And as I already said, the self-locking buttons came in handy when controlling the speed of windshield wipers. I have binded 2 different wiper speeds to both buttons, so I could finally focus on drifting in rain instead of looking for a button on my steering wheel to wipe my windshield. Switches are also amazing because you can bind stuff like ABS and traction control or even a map switch, so you can control different levels of traction, ABS and so on. So now I can disable traction control with a simple switch and do some drifting, and when it's time for cutting up in traffic or racing, I can turn it back on with an ease. But now I know that some people will say, yeah, but you can bind all of that to your steering wheel buttons. Yeah, you can bind some of the buttons, but you will quickly run out of them, and you will struggle finding the right button when you're driving and your steering wheel is upside down or not in a center position. You also don't have switches, self-locking buttons, a joystick and ignition buttons. Plus the control box makes your setup look more professional and it's a very cool looking gadget to have. I have also tested control box in Forza Horizon 5. Although Forza has fewer in-game actions, there are still some pretty useful stuff you can bind, like enter and escape buttons. With them you can easily open up a map and also close it thanks to the escape functionality of the button. Another cool thing is a joystick that I mostly use for looking around the car as an orbit camera, so you can get some front and side shots of your car. I also binded one of the switches to toggle on the telemetry that tells you useful stuff about your car, like current torque, power, how much you're applying brakes or throttle, and a bunch of other cool stuff. I binded another switch to convertible action so I can feel like a boss lowering a roof in a Ferrari Portofino and head over for a legs drive around Mexico City. And since I never had a separate handbrake, I binded the start button to act as a handbrake so I could finally drift some corners without clutch kicking. Now I should talk about pricing. As shown in the beginning of the video, the PXN CB1 Control Box costs $100 US, which makes it one of the cheapest control boxes out there. And from what I have experienced, this box is worth every penny. I honestly don't understand why anyone would go and buy a control box that costs 4 times more than this one, and it looks lame compared to a thrilling looking CB1. You get all the possible controls to be able to handle everything that the games have to offer, and at the same time it looks amazing to look at. The control box is compatible with a variety of games from simulators like Euro Truck or Farming Simulator, to racing games like Assetto Corsa, Dirt Rally, Forza Motorsport, F1 and a bunch of others. And if you're playing one of those games, especially Truck Simulator or Farming Simulator, you definitely need this control box to unlock a full game's potential. The CB1 is also supported on PlayStation 4, Xbox One and of course PC. And it's easy to set up. If you have a desk like me, you can use a clamp to attach it to the desk, or you can even mount it on a monitor stand or on any screw hole compatible stands. So a quick verdict about PXN CB1 Control Box. Even though it might be the cheapest control box out there, it offers everything you need from control box to be able to control your driving. And out of all control boxes out there, it looks the best, and you can't argue that. All the buttons feel great and solid, and also a whole box is made out of solid materials that will make a better longevity. I personally think that the gaming control box market is more of a niche than any other gaming equipment, so therefore there isn't many competition on the market and prices are so high up. In most cases you are looking to spend money equal to a brand new PXN V99 steering wheel, which just doesn't make sense. So I really praise that the PXN decided to launch the CB1 control box, and as with other PXN products is the same with the CB1, the price to performance is just unbeatable. And if you want to get your hands on a brand new PXN CB1 and step into even more immersive sim racing experience, I will drop a link down in the description so you can go and check it out and grab one for yourself. Also, if you like the video, don't forget to smash the like button, drop a comment what are your thoughts about the CB1 control box, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet so you won't miss on the future videos. And as always, have a great day and I will see you in the next one.